I didn't know how money was made. What I had in my head was totally different than how you actually make money. You got to go out and do this stuff, and it's actually simpler to make money than I thought it was. Totally like a mind bend type of thing there. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Tom Cafarella. What's going on, Tom?
Hey, thank you for having me, Brian.
Hey, thanks for coming on, dude. So, Tom, you're up in the northeast United States, right?
Yeah, I'm probably 10 miles north of Boston.
All right, it's competitive up there.
Yeah, everybody says that their market's competitive. I think every market right now is competitive.
Yeah, you're probably right. So, hey, Tom, I know we're going to talk about a lot of different things here, but give everybody a little bit of background on like what you do, what you're involved with, all that good stuff.
My background is like I grew up poor. I wanted to become wealthy. Like that was like my thing, like from 10 years old. And everybody told me, hey, do good in school, get a good job. So even though I hated school, I was one of the best students around. And I did that, pushed through that. And then in college, I'm driving around. I was in pre-med, almost did everything I needed to do to get into medical school. And I'm driving around delivering pizzas, and put this audio cassette into my white 2000 Kia Sophia that I'm sure all of your audience knows, which is the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. And I'm not even kidding. By the time I finished listening to that cassette, whatever it was, a few hours later, I went home. I told my father, I go, I'm not going to medical school anymore. I'm going to be in business, in real estate or something. And, most parents would say, you're out of your mind. Like you just did everything you needed to do to get in. My dad, just being so like non-caring about money, was like, wow, that sounds really cool. And so that's kind of like what happened. So I ended up getting my real estate license because I didn't know how to invest, or I wanted to invest, but I didn't know how. And I started selling homes and building my real estate agent business, which was cool. Like I was doing, decently well, but like most real estate agents, we refer to this as the real estate roller coaster, where you do like 3 deals 1 month, you feel rich. And then the next month you do no deals. You feel like you have to get a full-time job, and your income's up and down and up and down. And it wasn't until I got a mentor and I did my first assignment deal where I made $115,000. And I was like, holy, bleep. Like investing is way better than just being an agent. And since that deal, I fixed and flipped over 1,200 homes, built a 300-unit rental property portfolio. But what most people know me for is kind of like blending the investor and agent world together. You can see in my shirt, agent, investor. So I basically teach, investors that they should be agents, and agents that they should be investors, and that there's so many synergies that kind of go together that's really, my personal claim to fame. And I went to a Collective Genius conference a couple years ago, and they had a billionaire speaker, the founder of Priceline.com. And I remember him saying, like, you have to figure out what you can personally win a gold medal in. And it hit me right then and there. I'm like, I'm the agent investor guy. Like that's what I've been. And that's what I help people do. I help agents invest in real estate, and get financially free that way. And I also, highly promote every investor should be an agent as well. And there's just so much synergy to all of that stuff.
I remember the cassette tapes from all the cassette tapes. I used to listen to them too in the car. What was it when you listened to that book in the car that's like, you know what? I'm changing direction. I'm doing a total 180.
I think if I had to break it down, and I hate when people call themselves entrepreneurs. It's like a pet peeve of mine. But honestly, in the moment that I was listening to that, if I could dissect, what was going on in my brain, it was like, it talked to the entrepreneurial part of me. It spoke to saying, you can control your destiny. And that excited me. For some people that aren't entrepreneurial, controlling your own destiny and not having someone tell you what to do, that might be really scary. For me, it was like, I knew I was self-driven. I knew I was motivated. I knew I would do the work and be successful. I didn't realize that there was another path that you could take. And a lot of it came down to like, even like the freedom part and the economics of it too. I was thinking about, going to medical school and how many hours you have to work there. And then you get out and you do your residency, and you're not even like a real doctor until, like 10 years into this whole thing. And then once you're actually practicing, you still don't have any control over your time. And just thinking, like, why do I want money? Do I want money just to have money in a bank account, or do I want money to have a good life? And I think at the end of the day, like, why most people, it clicks with the investing. You go, wait, you can make a lot of money and have freedom at the same time. And I think that's what attracts people to kind of, doing this. And that's really what, sparked it for me. And understanding that the economics were possible. Understanding that if you own a bunch of multifamily real estate, or you fix and flip some homes, or you own a business, wow, like, you can actually make more potentially than a doctor. And it was stuff like that I was just ignorant of, because most people I grew up with didn't have like financially successful parents. And I didn't have financially successful parents. So you don't really know. And I think even those parents don't really know enough about how money is made. And it's just like, you listen to that one book and you're like, whoa, like, it's a mindset shift.
Yeah. And you're right too. A lot of people don't. I didn't know how money was made. I'm like, I thought money was made. What I had in my head was totally different than how you actually make money. It's like, oh yeah, you got to go out and do this stuff. And it's like, it's actually simpler to make money than I thought it was. Yeah, it's totally like a mind bend type of thing there. So that's interesting. That's a popular book. So many people tell me that was their gateway into real estate. It's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes, like, if I hadn't listened to that book, what would have happened? I don't know the answer. I don't know if I would have grabbed onto some other book or some other seminar, or if it's possible I would have just continued on kind of the straight and narrow path. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you see he has a game for kids now? I know you got kids. The cash flow board game.
I have it, and I'm toying with when I start introducing some of that stuff to my kids. I've talked to them about it. I know we talked about before, I've got a 10, 6, 5, and a 2-year-old. Obviously, it's not going to work for the 2-year-old, but I'm kind of toying with like, what's the right age to start having some of these conversations. And I've started a little bit with them, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. I know everyone has a different opinion on that, but I'm not sure when is the right time to introduce those concepts.
Yeah, and no one knows, right?
No, and they see me doing it. That's the other thing. Like, they see what I do and the flexibility I have, and I do my best to kind of point out, like, hey, I'm here for your hockey game on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. because I work for myself, and that doesn't mean I don't work hard. It just means that I'm working, extra hard, but it gives me the flexibility to be here. So I do try to like make it a point to kind of mention some of that stuff. And I'm sure some of it is subliminally hitting home in a way that like I just wasn't exposed to because I never even saw that life.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, okay, so let's talk about real estate agents first. You work with a lot of agents. What do you see most agents doing, and like what kind of mistakes do you see happening, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, so I have a real estate brokerage with 350 agents, and then I have a Facebook group with 11,000 agents in it that are all interested in investing. And what I see before they're introduced to these concepts, before they either join my group or learn about me or read Rich Dad Poor Dad or whatever, is I see them on a hamster wheel. And it's interesting because I take on 2 or 3 new agents in my brokerage every single week. And we always ask them, like, why real estate? And they'll all tell you freedom and flexibility and unlimited, income. That's the answer every single person gives. But it's interesting because 2 to 3 years into the business, once they start to get busy, they have less freedom and flexibility than a W-2 employee. Because people think, well, an agent can do whatever they want. No, they can't. Because if it's Friday night and it's 7 p.m. and your client says, I want to see a house tomorrow at 10 a.m., guess what you're doing? You're running and showing that house. And that house could be anywhere. That house could be 15 minutes away. It could be 2 hours away. You're going. So it creates this like no freedom type of thing. And you don't get vacations. If you take time off, you don't make money. So it creates this like almost addiction to active income, which, if you read the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, you'll understand that, active income, we need it. We need money every single year to pay our bills. But at the same time, what's actually going to give us the freedom is passive income. So what I see the biggest mistakes is that they're focused on being high income earners and not adding assets. And a lot of times they don't even think that they're capable of it, or they're afraid, or they just don't even know like what the benefits are. So I spend a lot of my time talking to agents just about like the mindset shift part. Because until they have the mindset shift part, they're not going to invest. Then once they have the mindset shift part, we talk about all the tactical things that need to happen. But, the thing about agents specifically is they are 90% of the way there to being successful investors by the time that I talk to them. Because I used to have a coaching program 4 or 5 years ago, and I would take anybody who wanted to invest in real estate. And it was really hard for the people who weren't agents. Like, I used to get excited when I would get an agent because I could talk to them about lead generation and going on appointments and negotiating and comps. And they already had like this foundational base of information. Whereas like if I got somebody that was from the corporate world, I was like, geez, like it's just that they didn't have those building blocks necessary. So that's the other thing, that it's a really frustrating thing for me working with so many agents who don't invest. It's like, you already have that base, and other people that are working full-time jobs, they've never heard about real estate until 3 weeks ago, are starting to kind of do it. So my whole mission there is just really to get every agent to at least, start investing, or at least tell me that it doesn't work for them, right? Acknowledge that you don't want to invest, but at least having them know the benefits and to make the decision, to either move forward or not.
Yeah. Now, what are you seeing? Like when you're talking about agents and investing, are you talking about flipping, or are you talking about buy and hold, or both?
I'm talking about both. And the model that the agent investor model that I talk about a lot is you're an agent. One of the things that agents want the most, the business that they want the most, are listings, right? So they want listings. Buyers are more challenging. It's less dollar per hour. It's less stable. So every agent wants listings. Well, what do you have to do to get a listing? Well, you need to talk to sellers, right? So as somebody who's an agent, talking to a bunch of sellers is what you're supposed to be doing anyways. So all I recommend doing is, when you're talking to those sellers, have 2 options. Have the ability to list their home and get them top dollar and get them the full market exposure, and have the cash offer. And the cash offer component is going to allow you to make an offer, either flip the house or buy and hold the house. And depending on what an agent is looking to do, like if they're looking to buy and hold, we'll target places that you want to buy and hold in and do the same exact thing. And the conversation is a simple one. Hey, you think about selling your house, would you consider an offer? Right? And it's simple. You can do it a lot of different ways. You could buy leads, you could mail, you could door knock, you could cold call, you could cold text. There's a million different ways to do this. But the reason why it's so powerful for agents is like, agents want to get in front of these sellers anyways. And 5, 10, 15% of these sellers are going to want a cash offer. You might as well be the one assigning it, flipping it, or buying and holding it. And sometimes people will say to me like, well, I just want to buy and hold. Like, I don't need to get a deal off market. Like, no. That's not how this works. And it goes back to kind of the math of it. If you want to buy and hold only one property in your entire life, yeah, you can go on the MLS, you can make an offer, you can buy it, you can hold it. And that'll be a great asset for you 15 or 20 years from then. But you're not going to have the ability to pull equity and kind of like use that as a piggy bank to buy other properties if you're paying full market value. So if you go on the MLS, you pay full market value, a year later, it's probably worth about the same. There's no equity to tap. But if you're using, the agent investor model, you're going to find it off market. You're going to get it for a 20 or 30% discount. Then you're going to go back to the bank a year or 2 years later and go, hey, I want, a $50,000 line of credit. You're going to get it. And that's going to be money you can use on another property. So there's a misconception that like, hey, I can just buy all my houses on the MLS and I'll build this huge portfolio, when that just takes so much time. So doing it the way I'm talking about doing it, getting them off market, targeting sellers, talking to sellers, can get you to become a millionaire in 3 or 4 years. The other way is like a 10 or 15 year plan. And there's nothing wrong with the 10 or 15 year plan if you accept the fact that it's a 10 or 15 year plan and work your life around that plan.
Yeah, and even when talking with sellers too, coming with multiple offers, it's just more in their benefit. It's like, hey, you know what? I can help you either way. Like, what are your goals and what are your problems? And we can figure it out.
It's way better. You know how many agents lose opportunities to me? Like, I'm going out with an investor offer, right? And their best friend might be a real estate agent. And they may want to sell to a cash buyer like myself. So they contact me and I meet them and I buy the house. Well, they would rather work with their best friend, right? If they knew their best friend had a cash offer, they would have gone to them first. But they look at it, the consumer, because agents are not opening their eyes to this, the consumer says, Bobby, real estate agent, you don't have a cash offer, so I'm going to go to Tom first. And that's the thing too about having the cash offer component for agents. They're going to get the cash offer first before hearing the agent, because if the cash offer works, it's easier. They're going to go that route. And then, they'll talk to the agent if the cash offer doesn't work potentially, or maybe they meet me and they really like me and I list their house, so.
Yeah, I see that even because I deal with a ton of investors too. On that side, investors going in with multiple offers because they're only going in with a cash offer. So they're losing the deals too because they're not given a full price offer or novating or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, what do you see on that side?
Well, it's the same thing in reverse. It's like, getting back to, this isn't like rocket science, but I feel like so many people are missing out, like agents who don't invest and then investors who are not agents. And when I talk to investors about becoming agents, most of them think, well, I don't want to be a retail agent. I don't want to be working with buyers. I don't want to be doing all this stuff. But it's not about that at all. It's about having the ability, if you have a marketing budget, like if you're working with a company like yours, Brian, and you're paying good money to generate appointments, you need every last dollar possible, right? Ultimately, the business that can spend the most to acquire a customer wins, okay? What that means is that if I'm buying your leads, and somebody else is buying your leads, and I'm doing all the flips and the buy and holds, but I'm also doing listings and you're not doing the listings, I can pay you more, right? So I'm going to end up dominating your niche. Like, I'm going to end up being your top client. The other person's not going to be able to compete with me because I'm able to make more money off of a lead than somebody else. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to be the one listing, right? Like, I haven't taken a listing, I haven't worked with a buyer in a long, long time, probably 7 or 8 years at this point. I mean, I have a team of agents that works all of these different leads for me. And of course, again, like, you go out with the cash offer, well, person might be buying something. And again, as an investor, I get you don't want to go out and show them homes, but if it's a $10,000 buyer commission and you can get 5 of that, that's just going to make everything that you do like more profitable. And beyond that, if you're not an agent and you have flips that you're going to sell, or you're buying properties, maybe you're buying some stuff on the MLS, like, you're going to get paid when you buy stuff on the MLS, you're going to save money when you list stuff. And keep in mind, like, if you're with, a company that, has a lot of agents in it, you might be able to build up like agent referral sources if you kind of become known in that brokerage as the investor out of the agents. So they're going to like bring opportunities to you, and that's like free marketing for you.
Yeah. No, 100%. I like what you're saying too, because the more you can make per lead, doesn't matter. Like we do digital, but mailers, SMS, like whatever the lead source is. If you have multiple opportunities, you can make more dollars on that specific cost per lead.
Yeah. My goal is I want to get a 1-for-1 return, and I fight for this every year. Like, I don't always hit it, but I want a 1-for-1 return. If I spend $3 million on marketing, I want to get $3 million back in retail sales. If I do that, my marketing budget's free. And that's just like, again, it's a very simple concept. I don't always hit it. I fight for that. But even if I get back $2.5 million out of the 3, now my marketing budget isn't really that big, right? It's only a $500,000 marketing budget. And again, it's just like simple concepts like this that like change your business.
Yeah, it is huge. Let's talk about focus. Well, what do you see? Because I know focus is hard for a lot of people, investors, and I'm guessing agents as well.
I think it's hard for everybody, right? Focusing is really hard because it's boring, right? Like, if me and you talk about like, hey, how do you get in really good shape, right? It's really easy to go to like a million different classes, try, 15 different diets. But if I go, hey, all you have to do is go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week and eat meat and vegetables, you're going to be like, oh, that's really easy, but that's really simple, but it's not easy. And it's like the same thing with business, where it's like, as entrepreneurs, like, you get excited, right? You want to conquer the world. You have energy. You want to do all these different things. And it's really hard to kind of keep the focus. And truthfully, I think the reason is it's boring. And I always say this, like, to people, success is boring. It is. If you have a very exciting business, you're probably not making as much money as you could be. So when it comes to focus, I think especially with like entrepreneurs that do well, it's like everything you touch turns to gold to some extent. maybe it doesn't turn to gold, maybe it turns to silver, but everything that you touch does well. So I think, at least from like my experience, what happened with me, and I just see this like throughout, the entire business world, is it's like, well, if I could do this and then I add on another business or another component to my business, look how great that will be. Instead of doubling down again on like what you can win a gold medal at. And the Priceline.com guy, when he came to Collective Genius, he made an analogy and he said, hey guys, I know you guys all know, the swimmer Michael Phelps, and everybody kind of shook their head and everyone's like, yeah. And he's like, I don't know how many gold medals he won, but he said, well, he won 32 gold medals. He's won the most gold medals in swimming or even in the Olympics like ever. And he said, how many days a week do you think Michael Phelps spends golfing or playing hockey or baseball? And we're all just like looking at him like, what's the point here? Like, obviously he doesn't do any of that. And he goes, right. But as I'm walking around this room, all of you were telling me about the 5 businesses that you own. So if Michael Phelps isn't playing golf, isn't playing basketball, like, why are you running 5 businesses? And then he said another powerful thing, which is, he said, the difference between me and you, I'm a billionaire and you guys are low millionaires, is that when I was building Priceline.com and it was starting to get big and starting to get off the ground and starting to be successful, I had people pitching me every idea under the sun. Sell luggage on the website, do this, do that. And he said, I put a sign, out in front of my door that said, if you're not coming in my office to tell me how to get Priceline.com into more hotel chains, just turn around. Again, this stuff is all simple, but it's not easy to do in practice. And, you have a book behind you, Traction, right? The entrepreneurial operating system. And my business and my mentality about my business changed when I started following that methodology. And that methodology teaches you that every single quarter, you have to identify what are your top 3 to 6 goals for the quarter. And you don't do anything else until those 3 to 6 things are done. And it forces you to really think. Because again, if I flip my screen around again, you'd see 100 ideas on my board, which is like what people who are business owners do. Like, we're idea people if you're like a natural business owner. But like, you can't do 100 things at once. So you have to be disciplined about picking those 3 to 6 things.
Dude, that's so crazy. I struggle with that all the time because it's like, yeah, and it is boring. It's so boring making the money and like focusing, because you want to, being in business, you want to be like, it's like, okay, let's do this and let's do this and let's do this. It's like, just do the boring stuff, make the money. The fun stuff, I tell my brother, he's a big streamer. I'm like, the fun stuff's, that's hobbies.
Yeah, it is. It is. And if you follow a lot of business owners around that make like decent money, but not great money, you'll see that they're doing a lot of fun things. And I see it a lot, especially on social media, especially like in the real estate investor space, where it's like, someone that's, decently successful, but not maybe like elite. And you see like every day, like, they're in RV parks, and the next day they're in apartments, and the next day they're doing this, and the next day they're doing that. And they always seem to kind of like figure it out to some extent and do okay, but they're not crushing it. And I'm not knocking this, by the way. Like, I don't want to come off and say like, you have to run your business rigid. I think if you understand that like switching all the time and not focusing is going to get you a lower dollar amount, and you're okay and you just want kind of like a fun business, then that's totally fine. It's just that you have to understand that like the boring stuff is going to get you the bigger dollars. So you have to make a decision, like, what's the most important thing for you? If you hate your life because it's so rigid and you want to quit your own business, then maybe you can't be that strict and you have to do some other fun things.
Yeah, I guess it's everyone's goals. Like me, I thrive on the excitement of figuring something out, and then I figure it out, and I'm like, okay, now we figured out the hard part. All you got to do is multiply, and then it's like, hey, let's go do this. And it's constant battle all the time.
Yeah. Hey, if this stuff was easy, I mean, this is a saying, everyone says, right? If this stuff was easy, everybody would be doing it. Everybody would be a billionaire. And it's not easy. It's not easy to get up and to do the hard work and to be disciplined and to work extra hours and to do the stuff that's boring and to make sure that you're doing the top priorities first. Like, this is not fun. It's just what's required if you want to be great. And it's everybody's choice, like you said. I mean, how good of a business owner do you want to be? The great thing is, it's your business. You can decide.
Yep. All right. So you have a podcast. Tell me about that. How do people find the podcast and what do you talk about on there?
Yeah. So everything I do is branded agent investor. And it's really, like I talked about, kind of that model of how to combine both. And it doesn't matter if you're already an agent or not. This is for anybody that's interested in that model where, you're able to spend the most amount of money on marketing and you're really taking advantage of every opportunity that comes across your plate. So I do a weekly podcast. People can download it by going to www.agentinvestorpodcast.com. And I feature different guests every single week. I try to find people who have things that we can kind of take away. Like I do go into people's stories, but I always try to find something that people can implement in their own business. And I'm a huge podcasting fan. I think it's the best medium right now for people to learn. I mean, I can't think of another medium where you could be cleaning your house or, driving to a showing or, doing the laundry or going for a walk where you can get educated. And when I started in real estate, like in order to get educated, to pay big money, to go to a seminar, you had to like commit to like something that's big. Where now you go on iTunes and you just find the people who you want to be like and have them literally talking in your ear while you're doing something that is so simple, right? And then I have the Facebook group, which people can go to at agentinvestor.com. I do a live stream every Tuesday at 11 in the group. It's free to be in the group. I do have paid coaching, which is for people that want more one-on-one help. I try to provide as much free information as I can. And there are definitely people who can listen to all my stuff and not need one-on-one help. And then there's people that, want one-on-one help. Like I'm one of those people. I started out never paying for coaching, never asking for one-on-one help, and then realizing that like it's just basically buying time almost because you're just shortcutting if you're going right to the source. But everybody's in a different position. So those are the two things that I do on a weekly basis, the live stream, the podcast, and you can also Google, my name or agent investor and all of my stuff will come up.
That's a huge point you made there too with one-on-one help and coaching, things like that. You're buying someone else's mistakes. Like it's like, okay, I can pay you a little bit of money and not make any of those mistakes you just made in the last 20 years. Or at least try not to, learn from them, get some heads up.
Well, the other big thing that I think people don't realize is that everybody has a little bit of a different personal situation, and how you apply some of this stuff isn't the same across the board, right? Like, yes, there are definitely underlying base level principles of things that you need to do as an investor, but everybody starts at a different point. Like somebody might start with some money in the bank, the next person might not. One person may have had real estate investing experience, the other might not. One of them might be a property manager at their W-2 job. The next may have never managed, anything. So it's like, that's the other component that I think people don't understand is like, yes, the principles are all going to apply, but what do you do first? And that takes somebody asking you questions and delving into your individual situation to say, hey, what do I think they should do next? And even if you get a coach, you don't have to listen to everything that they tell you to do. But I think getting that second set of eyes, almost having like a board of directors to say, I know you're thinking about doing this next, but have you thought about doing that? And at least opening your brain up to saying, maybe that could be the better route, but maybe it's not, but at least I've heard out another idea.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, hey, everyone listening, we'll have all those links in the show notes also. So go check out Tom. Definitely join the Facebook group. Check it out. Reach out to him. Hey, Tom, anything else we missed that we wanted to talk about?
I think like just even like backing it up just a little bit, like if I could just leave everybody with this, which is that, investing is the quickest path to wealth that there is, real estate investing. And one thing that I would just kind of caution people on that kind of get into it is like, make sure that you're not just turning assets, that you're also holding them. And it's a mistake that I made a little bit of, focusing a little bit too much on the active income and not holding as much as I could have. And when it's all said and done, no matter what you do, whether you're an agent, you're an investor flipping or assigning, like 20 years from now, you're never going to say, I wish I had flipped one more house or two more houses or assigned three more houses or sold five more houses, but I can guarantee you're going to say, I wish I had hung on to 5 more properties. And it's a discipline thing, because typically the decision is like, you can get a quick hit of money or like smaller money over the course of time. And I would just say, don't lose sight of like why we got into real estate investing to begin with, which is to have that like passive income. Not that maybe we don't work, but that we have the ability to just get that monthly income every single month. So don't lose focus on that, especially, for the people in your audience that are making good money with like quick turn stuff.
That's great advice. Yeah. Hold on to some. Well, hey, Tom, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thanks everyone for listening. Until next time, get out there, crush it, close some deals. Hey, we'll see you, Tom.